We're starting off tonight's episode with a mistake, and it was my mistake, and it's a mistake I need to correct before we can move forward. And I always think it's important to share the mistakes on this channel because they happen and you shouldn't let them discourage you. You should just attack them, fix them, and move on, because every mistake is an opportunity to learn. So let me tell you guys exactly how I screwed up this beautiful piece that you guys just watched me weld and start to blend out. As we were getting closer to finishing this up, I wanted to put it up into the car a little too late to see how it was gonna fit. And Jeff had made our final piece here, and this piece actually goes up in the front of the car here, welds in there on this pinch seam, and kind of gives you the profile of the front of this rocker panel. Now, what I do know is that this back profile is pretty well spot on where we need it to be. What's not is this front profile. So when I made up this template before, if you guys remember back, I added an extra like 1-inch strip into the template here. I even talked about it. And so what that's done is it's screwed up my profile here as well as in the front here. So this panel, we've marked it on the back side here where the top of the rocker is gonna go. And that's somewhere like up in here like that. And so you can see from the end on that I've got approximately 1 inch too much metal here. So how am I gonna fix this? What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna cut along these two lines here. I'm gonna cut down our profile here, and then we're gonna have to reshape this area a little bit because right now I've got my angle running from this body line to this body line, and now this body line is gonna be up here. So I'm probably gonna have to cut some of this back to get this angled back and then make a new filler piece here. So I may end up having to basically redo from about here down in the corner. That is the unfortunate part of making all these pieces from old, crusty, rusty, incomplete pieces. You're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna screw things up. The important thing is we're gonna overcome and we're gonna fix our mistakes and we're gonna make it right. The bottom part of this rocker has a big old gouge in it, starting from about here all the way down to the end of this panel. It's got kind of a U shape in it, and you can see it's nice and flat up here. It's should be almost basically 90 with the pinch weld, and as you come down here you can see we are very far off from a 90. You can see this slopes away. It looks like maybe the car was driven up onto something, or maybe a fork from the scrapyard or something got up under here to try and move the car, maybe something like that, because it is a nice straight line and it is a straight trough in this thing. So we're going to use a new tool today. Everybody loves new tools, me especially. We're going to try this Chicago Electric stud welder and dent repair kit. This is from Harbor Freight. It's got the stud welder, a bunch of studs. I bought some extra studs in the box there, and a slide hammer. And essentially what we're going to do here, you see I've already cleaned up the metal here. We're gonna weld studs into this trough, and we're gonna use this slide hammer to try and knock this dent out all the way down to the end here. If we can get that form back to the way it's supposed to be, then this new rocker that's going to go in is gonna match up to the new piece that I fabricated much, much better. We'll be able to measure and get those two pieces joined together, and then we can install that whole rocker panel as one piece, which is what I would like to do. You probably also noticed I've been complaining about the weather, and here we are. It is actually Valentine's Day. Jeff and I both have very understanding wives because we're spending Valentine's Day with his charger and not our wives. But it's Valentine's Day and it's like 40, 45 degrees. It's been absolutely freezing here the last several weeks, and now we've got this big warm up. It's actually supposed to be 60 degrees later this week. So we're enjoying it. We got the door open, we're enjoying the fresh air, and it's actually a nice change of pace. All right, so let me get you all caught up. My camera died on me while I was in the middle of using the slide hammer and the stud welder there. You can kind of see we don't have it perfect yet. I still got a little bit of a dent right here in the center. We got it popped out all the way to the end. And I'm gonna say this, the stud welder was okay. It wasn't great. Had I used the stud welder exclusively, it would have taken me a lot longer to get this shaped out the way that I wanted to. What I ended up doing was using a couple blocks here inside the rocker, and then using this pry bar and gently prying on the outside of the rocker here to get the shape that I want back into it. I'm gonna go ahead and get what I need trimmed off. We double or triple check that. It's a good thing we didn't go off of the driver's side, because we discovered that the rocker on the driver's side is 1 inch shorter at the front than it is on the passenger side. So I'm glad we caught that before we cut this thing too short, because that would have been a major bummer. Now you'll notice I still have this cut apart, and that's because for the fitment, I knew that we could get the profile right here, which, like, guys, look how good the profile is on this thing. It matches very, very closely. I knew we could get that right. I knew we could get the front profile right, but I was having trouble with this as one piece making that happen. This piece was twisting and tweaking. And so I think the best thing to do here is going to be getting this fit, getting the top pinch weld kind of put in place. And then we're going to start fixing the lower part into place. I actually need to rework the pinch weld down here. You can see down, I think I do have just a little bit of upward kick. We may end up cutting these tacks apart and resituating this just a little bit. I just wanted to see how well this was all gonna fit together, and man, it's looking really, really good right now. You cannot buy this rocker for this era of Charger. I found them for a Challenger. Nowhere could I find a replacement rocker for the Charger. So if you're wanting to do this work, you gotta make it yourself. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to make it as good as we possibly can. So while I was back working on the rocker, Jeff's been up here fabricating his heart out, with all these little pieces.
And here's the latest. I found this one kind of tucked away. We moved it out of the way to actually get this piece out, and this was kind of left in there. And when I was fitting this piece, I realized that this piece needed to be fabricated. So I'm looking for every opportunity to use my newfound welding skills. And rather than just try and make this one piece, you can see how this is curved, and this is one piece. I was not going to be able to stamp that. So I just made two pieces. I cut the flat edge and I cut the curved edge, and I welded them together. Perfect. Not pretty, but I was able to do it.
See, this is perfect. I love it. Jeff's learning new skills. We taught him how to weld today, and he's already in there making progress, making repairs on his own car, which is really awesome. Tonight, what Jeff and I are working on is trying to fit this piece of the rocker back up into place. So we've already done a few iterations of this. We've marked everything a little bit longer than it needs to be. We take a little bit off, we put it up on the car, and we remark where it is on the car, what we need to trim. So we're just taking little bites out of it here. So this will be about the 4th time we stick this thing back up. I did have to disconnect my front little rocker piece that I had tacked on there, because we just had too much going on up here at the moment, and it was not fitting in all that great. So I want to go back and adjust that after we get the rocker kind of fit up into place. We're taking little bites at it. We're going a little bit at a time. We're going to stick this back up there and see what we need to trim off of this piece again. We'll trim it off, and then we'll fit it up again. So we're just going to keep doing this until we get it just the way we like it. And then hopefully tonight we can tack this thing up into place, and we can see what this car is going to look like again with the rocker panel and all this rear structure back in the car. Okay, so you can see we're getting very, 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 very close. We've got our rocker lined up here where it's going to be. And if you look down along the floor here, you can actually see where the floor lines up really well with the top side of our rocker. This is where the car was hit. All the damage was here. The floor and everything was pushed back, and we know that. So you can see this is where the floor was pushed up to, because this is where the spot welds are drilled out for the floor pans. We know that this floor was all shoved way in And that's very evident now because we've got this rocker very close to where it needs to be, and you can see we've got maybe an 1.5 inch, 2 inch gap right here where the old floor used to be. We are close up here. We're not quite where we need to be. That gap is going to tighten up a little bit because we're hitting just on the inside there. But you can see how well we're starting to line everything up. You can see our windows here are lining up. We left some extra steel back here so that we could actually overlap these in the back to help us align things, and all that's falling right into place. We just have a little bit of fine tuning to do to get this thing touched up. And then once we kind of get it where we like it, we are going to tack it in place. We're not going to go too crazy welding it in right away because I want to try and get this piece fit in and get all this stuff lined up here in the front. Once we can do that, once we know like we have all of our pieces lined up where they need to be, we're going to go to town, get this thing welded up. I'm gonna get you guys caught up because Jeff and I made a bunch of progress tonight without filming too much. So the first time we kind of put this up into place, we were starting to get things fitted. I was starting to play around with this front rocker piece and noticed something pretty quickly. We brought the old fender off this car. Ignore this patch and this brace that we're gonna have to replace in the bottom of the car here. What we're really interested in is the edge of this fender and how it was gonna align with that rocker piece that I made. And we were finding that the piece that I made seemed to be too long. So whether I mismeasured or the original piece was so beat and mangled, I didn't get my measurements quite right off of that, I had to come in here and modify this. So what I did was I took this front edge off and I moved it back about 3/4 of an inch. And you can see now we've got a nice consistent gap here. I left that gap just a little bit big because I'd rather have it too large than too small. When we repair this fender, get a good straight fender on this thing, if we need to gap this appropriately, but we can add some metal to the edge of the rocker here and close that gap up if we need to. We did go ahead and get the rocker tacked into place here, and we got everything lined up pretty darn well back here. What we found was we needed to get the rocker kind of rolled up and in, because what we were having was this panel was curving in, this panel was curving in. We had this point on the inside, and you can kind of see now we've got this nice consistent curve, and that's how the opposing side is on the sail panel here. So we've got things lined up really well. Another good indicator, you come back here and where we've got these panels kind of overlapped, you can see how our corners match up there. And then back here you can see we've got an overlap panel where our holes line up here as well. So everything is lined up extremely well back here right at the moment. Good morning. It is a beautiful Saturday morning. We've got donuts, we've got coffee, we got Jeff's charger, and we're gonna keep working on this thing today. Look how glorious it is. We're working with the door open today, the end of February here. It's beautiful. So we're gonna continue on with the charger today. The goal the next 2 days here is to finish this rocker panel off for good. So we're gonna get right after it today and try and get this rocker repair completely knocked out. All right, guys, check this out. We wanted to fit the window back in here to make sure we're on the right track as far as fitment and everything. So Jeff, go ahead and roll that window back up. And I think we are definitely on the right track. There's a little adjustment we could do here, but I mean, look at that. It just goes right up in place. The only issue we're having is with this back stop. It's wanting to jump over the back stop here, but we're gonna be able to space that out. Plus we need a gasket up in here, so the window really probably doesn't even need to go up as high as it does. But I mean, the fitment of the glass up into the roof line here is really great, and that tells me that we're really on the right track here with the fitment of the rocker, this back quarter, all that. So everything's looking really good. So this piece tried to whip me pretty good, but we just about got it knocked out here. What I ended up having to do was, I had this all as one piece. I had to split the front and back, as you guys saw. I had to move my edge back about 3/4 of an inch. I got this all tucked up into place where it's supposed to be. We've test fit the fender several times. Everything clears. It all lines up really nicely on the bottom pinch weld there. I still have a little bit of work to do on this bottom pinch weld to clean this all up, make it look a little bit nicer. Plus we want to fit the door and make sure that the door, the fender, the rocker all fit together nicely before we go too wild welding everything in. Because of all of Jeff's hard work, as soon as we get this all settled, we like it where it is. We're going to be able to buzz all these pieces in really quickly, get all this welded up pretty fast. So it's going to come together quickly. Tomorrow we're going to test fit the door, make sure that the door, the back glass, the rocker, the front fender all line up really nicely. All right, so you guys just saw us attempt to fit the door, and it did not go the way we wanted it to go. We did a bunch of measurements here, and what we were finding is we were like a 1/2 inch off in the door frame, and we were racking our brains because everything here lines up. And so, you know, with that said, how could we have been that far off, right? So we did go ahead and grind out the spot weld for the front edge here. I got out a porta power. This is just a hydraulic ram, and we're gonna spread the inside of this door frame open because we were thinking maybe the car had shifted, but even that was really hard to wrap our brains around because the subframes are tied together with this brace here. That's all tied to the table. Like, the odds of this thing shrinking by 1/2 inch in the door frame from top to bottom was really hard to get our brains around here. As we were doing that, we put the spreader in there and we were making some progress. And then I remembered I had a couple little tack welds. You can see 4 little tiny tack welds right here on this piece of the floor. I put those in to help us hold this thing in place right as we were trying to get everything fit in. And I cut those welds out, and the second I did, the whole frame spread open. So we very clearly needed to release the tension off from where this floor was mounted. We are still gonna put the porta power in here. We're gonna spread this frame just far enough so that we get the identical measurements to the driver's side, and then I think we're gonna be in business. So this is exactly why we did not weld everything up, and we just had the tack welds in there because something like this, collision damage, you don't know what's shifted, you don't know what's right or wrong. It's really hard to judge any measurements based off the floor that's all crunched up in here. So the only way to do it is to start fitting parts and to make sure everything lines up perfectly. We knew we were in trouble when the door was slid all the way as far forward as it could, and we had to wedge it to get it to close in the door jamb. So I think this is gonna solve our problems. We kind of wanted to be like 34 inches.
Oh, yeah. We're 6 inches off.
We're 3.5, so that's right where we were at before. So if we get this porta power in there, and we see if we can spread that open a little bit. There. Right on that pinch weld. I can see it opening up.
Yeah, I mean, it's
significantly. Okay, hold on a second. Nailed that. 34. So I'm gonna grab a hammer, a body hammer, just to flatten that down, and then we'll weld. We're just gonna tack it just like we had it before, maybe not as severe of a tack. if that holds that. Oh, we're 1,000 times better. It is hitting. What are we hitting? Something's still hitting. Making contact. Is it that corner, that same spot on the door?
Is it hitting the latch too much, the striker?
Oh, it could be. It could just be the. It could just be the striker on the.
Which
we can take a shim out of. Yeah. So I think it's hitting right just inside there.
Okay.
But I can pull this other. This still an 1/8 shim in there. It's a giant shim.
I know.
Take this one out and put the small one in. Oh, the rocker's way better. Let's do this. Let's put the floor jack behind it and keep it kind of like this. And then I can get a pry bar behind the frame and the hinge. That way you're not having to stand there and hold the thing up. Oh, yeah, I don't think it wants to come forward anymore. Breathe. Youch. That one hurt. Yeah, I'm all right. Just split my finger open. Youch. I just
Oh my God,
pulled
Cody.
the skin back, so I should have been wearing my gloves. It's more because it's cold. All right, let's throw these on. Try this again. I don't think it's going to come forward much more. How about if you, lift up on the door?
Yeah. Do you want me to do it by hand?
Yeah, if you do it by hand.
Yeah, I'd feel different.
There. I think it's about the same. Okay.
That was awesome.
Good?
Yes.
Didn't strike at all. That's perfect.
You try.
Oh my gosh. That's beautiful. Check this out, guys. We got the door in, and honestly, it actually latches really nicely. It's not hanging up on anything. It's not catching anything. But the issue that we have still is that if you look, now this inner structure is a little bit floppy because obviously we're missing all the quarter panel and all that structure that gets put back in here. The thing that, and the floor's not attached, so this thing does move around a little bit. But the thing that's not going to change is the seam line here with the quarter panel. If you'll notice, this is where the old quarter panel was cut off. So this is technically the edge of the quarter panel here, and the door should fit within this frame. And you'll see when we shut that and it latches, we're actually hanging over that seam. So while the door shuts now, I think we're just still a fraction of an inch too tight here. We probably want to get another 1/8 of an inch out of the door frame, which honestly, when we measured, that's what we were off. We were off about 1/8 from the other side. So we're going to pull the door off again. We're going to do the same thing we just did. Cut our tack welds, spread the door open just a little bit more. That went surprisingly easy. It really wasn't straining or groaning or anything as we were spreading it. So I think we've got room to work with to get this thing spread out to where it needs to be. And we should be able to get this door fit nicely within the door jamb. Okay, right there. There she goes. Probably want to slide that guy back in.
Yep.
there it goes. Okay, that's good there for now. Okay, I would let's put a couple pumps in in that guy. Yeah, I can see it moving everything. I would stop right there. That's right at 45, right there. So that's within probably a 16th or 32nd of where that needs to be. That's 45. I would call that
45 and a quarter?
40, yeah, just a shade under a quarter there. It's right at a quarter, 45 and a quarter.
Okay.
So, actually, depending on where I'm at, it could call that a shade under a quarter. Okay, go again.
Go again.
Yep. Go again. Stop. Stop right there. That puts us over 45 and a quarter. I could see this, when you were pumping on it, I could see it moving this whole.
Okay, I'm glad. Cause
I could see it moving the whole structure up there, so. Gotcha. So we still need to come
Still need to go up.
up. How are we? Look at that.
Oh,
Nailed it.
oh my God, Cody.
Friggin' nailed it.
Good job, dude.
Okay.
Oh my God, that is for the ages, dude.
All right, we just made huge progress here. So we got the door on. We put the fender back on. It's not bolted on, it's just set in place. So we started measuring things up. The great news is we've got clearance on the fender. We've got a little bit of clearance back here on our quarter panel now. You can see this now sits inside of the quarter panel there. What we are going to be able to do is we could actually shave and trim off the door edge if we have to give ourselves a consistent gap here, and then just re-weld what we shave off and re-profile it. So we're going to be able to make this gap work. We've got clearance all the way. You can see all the way down there. Now our rocker lines up really nice. The one drawback we figured is I was really confused on how I had an extra inch at the front of this. And then when I realized we needed to, or it was more like 3/4 of an inch. And that's what I spent all yesterday doing, was cutting that 3/4 of an inch and moving it back. Well, now if you've been paying attention, you know that we just moved the whole front cowl forward 3/4 of an inch. And so guess what? Now I'm 3/4 of an inch short. So unfortunately, all that work and all that time I spent yesterday shaping and profiling this, we're going to have to redo when we get a fender put back on this car. And I'm not going to address it until then, because obviously I'm basing nothing off of this part of the fender. There's no point in even trying with that. What we do need to do is get this fender repaired and then figure out how it's going to mount into the rocker here, because it actually needs to sit off just a little bit, about like that, to get clearance for the door. And then once we've got that relationship established, then I can just put in a cosmetic piece of metal here just to clean up that body line and then reblend and everything. Structurally, this is what the rocker is going to be, but everything else from here on forward is going to be cosmetic on that rocker panel, which is huge, because the main concern on this car obviously was structure. And now you can see for the first time in, what do you say, Jeff, like 40, close to 50 years, we believe that this car was wrecked in the 80s. So for the first time in 50 years, you guys get to witness the door open and latch. It is latching. Everything is still a little floppy, like I said, because we're only tacked and we're not tied in to any of the floor structure yet. And we're not going to be until we get the floor replaced in the back half of this car. But this is such a huge milestone for this part of the build. We've got all the structure, the rocker, everything back where it needs to be. Everything's lining up. The windows all fit in the frame. We don't have any rubbing or anything anywhere right now that we're not supposed to have. So this is just a huge step. Obviously, we've got some panel fitment issues up here, but that's no big deal. More than likely, we're going to end up modifying the fender mounts and everything up here to get these all body lines to all flow a lot nicer. We've got great big gaps here. I'm sure some of that was like that from the factory, but we also figure we've got a minimum of 3 different cars worth of parts here, if not 4. So there's a lot of different parts and pieces here that all have to come together and get lined up. But we are making big progress, and I'm really excited that we've gotten to this point, because this was the ugliest part of the car for so long, and now it's actually starting to look like something. So now that we're at this point, the next step here is just going to be to go ahead and lock that rocker in on the front, start making all of our repair patches up there, and once we're done with that, we're going to be able to move on, get past the rocker repairs here on this side, and start fixing the floors up. You saw I got all those patches that Jeff made up welded in up in the front. The rocker is now tied back into the car. No going back at this point, so it lives where it lives. We're really happy though with the way the door and everything shuts. So we're pretty much done with the rocker repair. We just got a couple little odds and ends things, so that's where I'm going to cut this one. It feels really good to have this rocker repair done and out of the way, so we can now start moving on, because the next step is going to be working on putting in rear frame rails and the rear floor pan, basically from the rear passenger seat all the way to the back of the trunk. So new floor pans, new frame rails, as I said, because the other ones that are in there are damaged. So big progress this week. Things are looking really, really good. It's starting to feel like a car again. If I can get some pictures from Jeff, we're going to throw some before pictures in here so you guys can see what this car looked like when he bought it, with the rear quarter all smashed up and still attached to the car. It's a huge turnaround already. We're feeling very confident. This is really a morale booster, because we know we have a good side of this car now. That was really the biggest hurdle for us, fixing this car. Now everything from here on out is basically rust repair, and we can handle that. Got a lot of it to do, but we can do it. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you want merch, go check out codybuilds.com. I don't push that too much, but I got a t-shirt and a few stickers and a few other things over there, so go check out codybuilds.com. All that said, guys, as usual, if you don't work on your projects, they will not work on themselves. Get out in the garage, get building, and I'll see you on the next episode of Cody Builds.